We are your psychic medium couple that are going to be talking about misconceptions of the psychic medium community and that people have, honestly, like a lot of clients have had. So I'm Stephanie. I'm also known on TikTok and other YouTube channels like BuzzFeed Unsolved and Snarled as Stephanie Strange. So you can, dabble into that. But I will be having my partner who I want to introduce you guys to. And
I'm Carl.
and so Stephanie and Carl, so we are going to basically dive into the misconceptions and give advice. So
Yep. There's five that we're going to address tonight. Today we're going to talk about 5 misconception ideas that psychic mediums experience. Starting with, we know everything.
We can read everyone
whenever,
wherever, and we just know everything, which is such a huge misconception and is kind of annoying, actually. I think so. We took class the way we met is we met at a psychic development class, and our mentor would always tell us consent is literally like the most important thing ever. So like whenever I read people, or even like when I talk to spirit, I always try to get consent. I just think it's like that goes without saying with people and entities.
It's important.
Yeah, it's very important. I think that, have you noticed any difference? Like,
psychic mediumship is all about delivering a message, and a message is important to that particular person that you're giving the message to. So when you come to someone with a message, it's crucial to ask for permission, because by hearing yes, you are allowing the message to be more fluent, more natural, and much more meaningful. By hearing someone saying no or declining, and you try to force it anyway, it's counterproductive than what you're trying to accomplish, and the message may not be as effective as you would like to give. So consent, like Stephanie was saying, is the most important thing in giving a message.
Yeah, I think that like it makes also too, I know for a fact I don't know about you, but I've sat in psychic development circles where I was going through like a tough time, or I was going through a very vulnerable time. And I'm like, I'm going to be here today. I'm showing up today so I can practice and own in on my skills. But I really hope that no one picks up on my baggage today. I don't know if you've ever had, I've had that.
Yeah, I have. It's your emotions can influence the room. It can influence the energy, just the energy in general. I can definitely relate to a couple situations where when I would have a bad day, it would interfere with a message, or someone in the room would pick up on something that they can't really pin it down. And it's like, oh, wait, that is affecting. That is me. I just didn't realize it. So,
but not even that though. Like I remember this one time when I was going through my breakup, and there was like a person that had like a crush on me, and it was like a really awkward week because I think they were like trying to tell me their feelings. And so I went to that psychic development class that we were all in, and I'm like, I hope no one fucking brings that up. And like, and I think they did. I don't know if you were there. So someone was like, there's this kid that likes you and they just haven't come out and said it. I'm like, oh my God, the last thing I want to hear right now. And so, but I said, yes, I gave that consent. So they were able to read that energy. But there's also been situations in the past when I was first starting with this journey of being a psychic in general, just speak on that because the medium came later. But the psychic skills, I remember like I opened up so broadly. I was actually my sister's ex-boyfriend's house, and I immediately said to him, you had some trauma with an older man. He got so uncomfortable. He locked himself in the room for the rest of the night. And so like consent goes a long way. Some people protect their energy so much that you cannot pick up something. And I think it's because they're very guarded. That's what they always say in the community is like, you have to be open to this in order to receive message or understand message. It's just not going to always be with everyone.
Well, not to mention that it's consent lays the foundation. If someone is not prepared to hear a message of any kind, you could run into a situation like that. And even if you're just trying to come up with good intentions, like, oh, trust me, I really need to tell you this. I really need to tell you this. If they say no, I'm sorry, but we've learned the hard way that it wasn't the time to give that message.
Yeah.
Because what you're going to turn the situation into is someone who is going to you're going to rip off a Band-Aid, and you're going to open up an old past wound that they're going to have to handle on their own, and they're just going to reject all help. So
yeah,
ultimately the biggest lesson to learn by being a psychic medium is to respect the boundary. And if you do respect the boundary, anything, it's limitless at that point, because I'm not sure if, I mean, I know that in the messages I have given, the second when they have given me consent, I've been able to give them
Yeah, it's a lot better.
a much more effective message by that. And I'm sure you have too.
I think also there are some entities and spirits that also get really mad too. If you like,
Yeah.
I know I've met some people where like their ancestors or their like God spirit guides are like, nope, I don't want you here. I don't like you. And that's another thing like that we'll get into. So that we'll get into later, I guess. Yeah, we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, that'll be like number 3 we'll touch base on. But yeah, sometimes they may not want you in their space. So I'll move on. I'll kick off number 2. So number 2, the second most common misconception is that all psychic mediums do it for the money. Oh my God. I think that is a huge misconception. I think that like your neighbor could be a freaking psychic medium and never tell you, or never even have a business. I think in the last 10 years, I had a business maybe for 6 months. And I was like, oh no, this is a lot. I don't think you've ever had a business either. I think you've done it longer than me.
It's been doing it for a while, yes. But for me personally, it's never been about the money. I mean, yes, to those who have made a successful business and makes profit out of this particular topic, I mean, props to you. And congratulations on making that milestone. But when it comes to about money, you just have to be, if you are seeking a reading, you have to be just cautious on where you're putting your money at, because sometimes there are some psychic mediums out there that use the talent, use the gift for the wrong reasons.
Well, yeah, but not even that though. But I mean, going back to like, not all psychic mediums do it for the money. I think that the reason why I started, it was because I wanted to get in touch with my higher self. I wanted to know more about me and why I'm here and like what I should look out for, and just kind of like learn from my past lives. I think that's initially why I got into this community. I never got into this whole thing as like, yeah, I'm going to learn all these skills and I'm going to have a business as a psychic medium. And that's actually one thing our mentor would always say too, is you don't want to ever rely heavily on just money as a psychic medium. So meaning that like you let go of all your jobs and just rely on your skills as a psychic medium to make money, because it kind of, in a way, it takes away the actual like enjoyment and passion, I would argue. I mean, everyone's different, but at least that's how I perceived it. And that's how my mentor also mentioned, like, that's what he believed too. And I've seen people go down that path as well. So it's like a different, it's different. So I think like a lot of us do it for different reasons. I think a lot of us do it to learn from our past lives, learn about our karmic debt, learn about ourselves and our higher selves.
I'll add to that too. I mean, similar journey as you. Like when I stepped foot into that room, when I was doing psychic development, it wasn't, money never crossed my mind. It was more of a personal journey, self-development, ways that I can improve myself. And in the process, I met you. So it all worked out in the end. But yeah, it's, I feel like by having that personal journey has, in my life at least, it's helped me kind of see things from a different angle, because after having a better understanding of who I was, it's make it easy to help others, kind of guide them through that message, guide them through whatever's going on in their lives. Because at the end of the day, like when you want to deliver a message, you want to have the intent to just help someone in that given time.
Yeah, I think, yeah. So I think that covers most of like the misconception, right? Like in general, like all psychic mediums do. Okay, let's get on to the third one.
The third one, yeah. So we wake up one day and we just know our skills.
Definitely, actually, I wish.
I mean, it's not like you watch TV and there's these people that has telekinesis abilities because they were just born with it. It's, believe it or not, being a psychic medium, anyone can be one. It is no different. Everyone
has a gift.
Everyone has a gift. Every single person has the gift. It's how you should look at it. It is a muscle that you just have to develop.
Yeah.
I always recalled even earlier in life that I was sensitive to a lot of energy. And I'm a very visual person. So clairvoyancy was something that I was unsure of. But the more I kept practicing, the more effective I was. And believe it or not, it's like, you go to the gym for 6 weeks. If you take 6 months off, what's going to happen when you go back? you're going to be back at square one. I distinctly remember a few times when I stopped practicing, I was back to square one. But at the end of the day, to keep this momentum going, you just have to have faith in yourself. You just got to believe, trust your gut, trust your instinct, and just know that the energy around you will help you.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, to kind of piggyback off that, I think that, it's a muscle. Everyone has the skill. Everyone also has a relationship with their spirit guides too. So one of the ways that I remember when I was starting this journey was always people telling me like meditate. And it's not like the cliche meditate where you just like sit with your like legs crossed or whatever and you're just like meditating. No, like meditation can come in different forms. It can come through like art, creativity, when you're driving, when you're running, whatever, like a moment where you're just like in stillness in the present moment. You can find different ways to meditate, but they would always say like quiet your thoughts, try to be in the moment and let whatever message your spirit guide is trying to tell you, and like do a meditation on meeting your spirit guides. It starts there. So I think like that was like the biggest step one that I was like having a hard time overcoming because I was scared. But once I actually got to know my spirit guides and I was learning how they communicate with me, I started to learn more about like what are my strengths as a psychic, and also as a medium as well. But that again came later down the road. So yeah, I would definitely say that it took even like 10 years of doing this, because of the breaks I've taken in between. It's an ongoing like ebb and flow of learning. Like you're always learning, because like when you change, like, because we're always changing and growing. So the more you change and grow, also the way you receive messages too. And that was something that like it took me a long time, but like after 10 years, I'm like, oh my God, how I read 10 years ago, even as a beginner versus now, is so different, I would say.
Yeah. Just to kind of add to that a little bit more, I've, taken some joy out of my time to read books about psychic mediumship. And to be honest with you, when you read the books, it's nothing compared to just simple practice.
Simple, yeah, sitting in a circle and practicing.
You could read books to be informed, and by all means, please do so. But I learned very quickly that reading a book did not strengthen my skill and did not hone in on that and strengthen that muscle. Even if you think you doubt what you're doing is incorrect, just go with it. Because for me, I definitely was very big on better understanding my guides. And throughout the years, I had different images of what my guides look like, to the point where it was getting a little overwhelming.
You also get different guides over time too.
You do. So then it just got to the point where it's like, you know what? When you come to me, you will come as you are. You'll be who you are. And whatever that moment is, I will embrace you and work with you on that.
Yeah.
And it's just so weird when you go, instead of like fighting the message and the energy, well, the moment I would embrace it is what would catapult the strength. And I would realize very quickly that my most effective messages were when I just went with the flow and just embraced it. Which again, you can like tie all the misconceptions together, but it works.
Yeah. Okay. So you kicked off the last one. I'll kick off this one, right? I don't remember anymore. Okay. Number 4. So mediums and psychics are the same thing, which they're not. That's another misconception. People are like, I don't know, psychic, medium, whatever. They're 2 different things.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
So I'm actually going to quote the website. There's a website. I'll put it here. And it's interesting because I agree, but I don't agree. So here, we'll get to that. So they said, okay, so some people say that all mediums are psychics, but not all psychics are mediums. So I agree. I think that in order to own on your medium skills, you have to definitely get to the psychic side. But I will say, you and I have met a lot of people that are mediums and don't like to read people at all. Or are horrible psychics and giving guidance and reading like divination or giving people any guidance of the future or the past, but they're really good at connecting with like their ancestors, their deceased friends. I've definitely met those people. So just because some sites are saying this and some people say that, just do your research. Not all mediums are also just as great as a psychic. Sometimes there are stronger mediums than they are psychics. There's also people, not to say that not all of them can be both. There's some great people, like Percy was an amazing psychic
Yes.
medium. There are some people that are just really good at both, but just keep in mind, just because you are a psychic medium, sometimes your strength may not be as a psychic. So
gotcha. So like psychics tend to just read the energy that you provide, or just the energy that's around you, which can give you guidance on various topics from your love life, career, short-term, long-term goals, or just outcomes. But just bear in mind that any message that you're receiving from a psychic, it's brought to you in that exact moment, and whatever that moment brings as far as energy wise, it's not necessarily set in stone, because anything can change over time. But ultimately what a psychic is supposed to do is just give you the ability to guide you through the here and now.
Right. So those are the more of the difference. So like a medium, in short, medium, to summarize everything, medium, if you want to talk to a deceased loved one, get a medium. Psychic, someone that wants to give you someone that can give you guidance with like your love, career, etc., and read your energy at that present time. And also can see the future based on what the choices you're making in that present time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in short, that summarizes everything. So, okay. So to kind of, I know this is a controversial take, but basically we were always taught that you never want to give message that deal with the 3 Ds: death, disaster, divorce, like any major catastrophe. So like, for example, if you sit down on a reading and someone's like, you're going to die tomorrow, you don't want to give those readings. It's not for you to
Red flag.
Yeah, you don't. Well, yeah, here are a couple of reasons. It is a red flag. But before we jump into that, you never want to give a reading to someone like that, or you never want to receive a message from a psychic medium or a psychic from like telling you all these disasters. Why? Because when it comes to huge catastrophes,
huge catastrophes,
you kind of go about it a different way, and you don't learn your karmic life lesson. So like if someone tells you you're going to die tomorrow, would you really go about it the way you naturally would, or would you live it off fear? Right. So it kind of persuades you to look at certain avenues that you're supposed to learn that life lesson, so you can move on to the next life lesson. So this is kind of more of like a reincarnation based thing from what I was always taught. And I kind of resonate with this. Right. So like, let's just say someone went missing, like a family had a daughter that went missing, and they came to you as a psychic medium. They're like, is she dead? You may know the answer, but it's not for you to give to them that answer. Why? Because imagine if you just said they died and they just stop looking altogether.
Yeah.
Now, there's a couple of things that could cause them to stop looking. Maybe they end up not catching who was the kidnapper or the cause. Maybe, it
basically would have an overarching influence over that said investigation. And and also you could potentially provide false hope. Because in these certain situations, as catastrophic as they are, there's due process. Someone's missing, there's an investigation, people are on it, and to provide that outside influence,
you would just influence it
would go in the wrong direction,
to a way that they would not learn their life lesson. So, or even like divorce, right? Let's just say you were also doing a reading on a couple that were talking, she's like, I think my husband's going to divorce me. And maybe you might know the answer. Maybe the husband is cheating on the wife and wants to divorce. But then like, imagine if you told that person that, they wouldn't learn how to let go, for example. Maybe like, because you told them that she's going to get divorced tomorrow, she ends up like clinging on to this person rather than learning self-love. So like, you kind of get my drift. You kind of don't learn that karmic lesson. And it's not always for you to tell them that. As a reader, you're supposed to give them that guidance to maybe uplift them, but not to change the fate of their karmic lessons, because sometimes you have to learn those karmic lessons on your own, I would say. Because if you had someone else holding your hand through life, you would never learn the meaning of life. I think that's why some of us like to learn things the hard way, because sometimes we have to learn for ourselves to finally get the message. It's the same way. Sometimes we don't have to give them those major things. Plus there's some ancestors that will get mad at you because they'll be like, wow, you told this person the answer. And then they might also, I've actually heard this, I don't know if it's true, but I could see this because I've talked to people over the last 10 years where this person gave a client a message that dealt with that. And they ended up not being able to read for months after that. And then she was like, yeah, my spirit guide basically kind of punished me in a way
Yep.
because I did something I wasn't supposed to.
Believe it or not, it's not one of those situations that you're being watched when given a message, but just know that what goes out always comes back.
Yes.
So, and it's one of those things that when you give positive intent to the universe, positive intent will return. And I'm not saying that there's rules in the psychic mediumship world, but there's it goes back to the boundaries. If something is telling you to not proceed with a message, it's probably the right thing to just pause and just leave it as is, because
Right.
there are repercussions that could happen. You could face the blockage. You could face a situation where your message was just wrong altogether, and the integrity of that message just went south because that person relied on what you had to say.
Right. So yeah, so so that's one portion of it. The other portion too, like what we were kind of alluding in the beginning, is that sometimes people that give like fear-based readings just want more money out of you. In short, like I've met those people that are like, I'm a psychic medium and you have a curse and you have to give me $500
to remove it.
And you don't even have a freaking curse.
Yeah.
So that, those are what we just discussed in a nutshell. Is like, there are two major reasons why you should always be wary of people that want to give fear-based readings. One, they could be a freaking fraud. Number two, you might be disservicing yourself from a important life lesson. So that's why psychic mediums may not always have the answers. Maybe their ancestors don't want you to tell them that, or maybe you don't need to tell them that so they can learn their life lesson.
In all the years where I have given messages to anyone, not once have I came into a situation where I'm like, oh, you have a curse, we got to take care of that.
Yeah, I don't.
There's been situations where I acknowledged someone was going through a hard time in life, whether if life is life. We have the ups and we have the downs, and yes, you feel the emotions, you feel the damage they're dealing with, but not once has there ever been a moment like, oh, you're cursed, or there's a demon following you, or X, Y, and Z. What do I do? No, if you run into that situation, I would encourage you in that moment just to ground yourself, lean towards what you believe, and take a step back.
This summarizes the 5 common misconceptions. So let me recap and summarize everything. So the first misconception is we just know everything and can read everyone whenever, but there's actually a thing called consent when it comes to reading. The second thing is that all psychic mediums do it for the money, which is so not true. There's so many of psychic mediums that just have a gift, want to own on their gift, and better themselves.
The third is we just wake up one day and have the skill,
which I wish. I feel like we're always like the Harry Potter, ongoing Harry Potter. We're not like the major wizard. We can be, but I feel like we have to be the student of life.
Yes.
To humble ourselves. And then also that mediums and psychics are the same thing, which we know they're not. And then lastly, the fifth thing,
we have the answer to everything,
which we don't. And we can't give you always the answer due to karmic laws and ethics and morality for some readers, depending on, again, their religious base belief or whatever. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that summarizes everything. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Yes,
and
thank you so much.
If you want to watch more of our stuff, we will be doing another video on sleep paralysis. Do you know, and we'll be touching base on Kendall Jenner and sleep paralysis. So tune in for that. Watch this video here, and we'll see you later.
Take care.